Now recording. Everyone say hello.
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 All right, and now we can get going. So today I'll be presenting to you my persuasive speech. Drugs are a waste of time. They destroy your memory, your self-respect, and everything that goes along with your self-esteem. This was said by Kurt Cobain in 1992. Throughout this speech, I will be covering my key points, which are the objectives and statistics, requiring a minimum time in rehab, specialized rehabilitation jails and prisons, and providing support. Now that I've talked about the key points I'll be going over, we can move on to the first slide, which is the objectives and statistics slide. I want to bring people together to help fund drug addiction programs, make petitions to enact these things I'll be going over in my speech, as well as providing support. Because illicit drug use is directly and indirectly responsible for over 750,000 deaths per year, as well as over 166,000 of those people die from drug overdose alone each year. This was sourced by ourworldindata.org on March 16th, 2018. You might be wondering, why do I want to help these drug addicts? It was their choice to do it to begin with. But there are many reasons for addiction. Some of the reasons could include a want to feel better by using it as a coping mechanism or self-medicating. They could be dealing with whatever type of pain that they're dealing with, and they're willing to literally do anything to get rid of this pain, which can include self-medicating. And this goes along with a lack of knowledge. You could go to a doctor and express to yourself that you're dealing with so much pain, and in turn, they'll give you a medication. But what they might not tell you is that this medication is highly addictive, and you become dependent on this drug because you're just trying to push away the pain that you're dealing with instead of solving that pain. As well as peer pressure. Peer pressure can be something that happens in adolescence and carries over into adulthood, or it can be something that happens to you when you are an adult. Let's say a boss comes to you and gives you a promotion and wants to have a party after work. So they say, let's go to a bar, and you may not necessarily drink, but you decide to go, and then they pressure you into drinking alcohol, and you realize, oh, this isn't that bad. It's kind of fun. And then it becomes more of a regular thing, and then next thing you know it, you're drinking every single day, and at that point, you become addicted. And the reason why I wrote this speech to help with drug addiction amongst adults is because there are many resources already for drug addiction amongst minors, such as programs that help teens get through drug addiction, as well as informing parents and or guardians of how they can help support their child through this stressful time. As well as schools even have drug awareness programs and as well as assistance in helping with drug addiction. Yet there's fewer resources when it comes to drug addicts amongst adults. They're just kind of left to fend for themselves, and they truly believe that they're in control, but what they need to realize is that they're no longer in control, the drugs are. Now that we've talked about the objectives and statistics, we can move on to the next slide, which is requiring a minimum time in rehab. This can be considered for something if someone goes to a rehab and they voluntarily are admitting themselves to rehab. I believe that based on their addictions, there should be a minimum time required in rehab, such as alcohol. If they're addicted to alcohol, I believe these people should be requiring a minimum time to stay in, such as a month to 3 months. Now, if they're addicted to something like prescription medications, such as Adderall, opioids, or amphetamines, they should be required to stay anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Now, if they're using something such as illicit drugs like cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamines, they should be required to stay there anywhere from 6 months to a year. Because I know for fact that drug addiction is a mental illness. This was stated by the National Institution on Drug Addiction.gov on March 22nd, 2022. As well as them voluntarily admitting themselves to the rehab, they should be required to undergo psychiatric evaluations, which can help determine factors which contribute to their addiction, such as any type of trauma that they've dealt in the past, and ways to help them get past that so that they are no longer dependent on this drug to relieve the pain that they're dealing with, as well as be provided with mental health support throughout the rehab, such as educated personnel who can help provide them with healthy coping skills to get through this stressful time of becoming sober. And now that I've talked about requiring a minimum time in rehab, we can move on to the next slide, which is specialized rehabilitation jails and prisons. This is something that we would have to come together and make a petition for. This can either be something that's on its own, such as a separate jail and or prison, or it can be something that is added on to jails or prisons. Because if someone gets caught with drugs and they have no intent to sell the drugs, and at that point we should be taking a deeper look into whether they're a criminal or just dealing with a mental illness of a drug addiction. Because not all drug addicts are criminals and they shouldn't be labeled as one. And throughout these specialized jails and prisons, this will provide them with the opportunity to get the help that they need, even if they do not want the help. Because as I said in the beginning, they may be too intoxicated and able to make these decisions to better themselves. And as well, this would still be served as a punishment because they would not have the same type of freedom as they would as if they voluntarily admitted themselves to rehab, but it still gives them a chance to try and do better and be treated better under their circumstances. Now that we've talked about specialized rehabilitation jails and prisons, we move on to the next slide, which is providing support. This is something like me and you and every other day citizens can do so that we can help these charities or people that you may know personally to get the help that they need so they can be reintegrated back into a normal life, as well as spreading awareness. This can be something you do on social media or by word of mouth, because people are more likely to fall back into addiction due to untreated mental and or physical problems, a lack of coping skills, and or not being motivated due to the lack of support that they are provided. This was sourced from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs on July 26, 2018. You can also help simply by supporting charities like Shatterproof that help ex-drug addicts with temporary homes, jobs, and independency, in a sense of they're able to give them a safe place to live while they get a job, get money, so that they can get back to being independent. Now that we've talked about providing support, we'll move on to the final slide, which is the conclusion. Because not all addictions are rooted in abuse and trauma, but I do believe they all can be traced back to painful experiences. This was taken from Dr. Gaber Mate's book in 2007, In the Realm of Hungry Ghost, Close Encounters with Addiction. And I know that all these things I've stated in my speech will not necessarily solve these problems. My hope is to decrease the number of drug addicts there are in the United States. Yes, there is over 8,000 charities and nonprofit organizations that focus on assisting drug addiction and rehabilitation, but why not stand up and do something yourself to help make the world a better place? Because you never know that you or someone you love may end up being the one who needs it. And this last slide is just a list of charities that you can choose to support to help drug addiction amongst adults. Thank you. Oh, there's my speech.
Very good.
Yep. I'm hoping that I